Welcome to Whatsoever More or Less. My name is Jason, and today we have a 10% chance of rain that keeps raining. So it is what it is, I guess, here in Snowflake, Arizona. Us Easty Beasties, anyhow. Doesn't change the fact that I've got chores to do. I tell you what, so my in-laws, lifelong homesteaders, contractors, and what have you, kind of both come from rural areas, raise their kids in the city, but raise their kids sitting on the edge of the city, you know, and then doing other stuff. Well, they just at this point they moved from 4 acres. They originally had 6 acres up here in the Taylor area. You know, anybody who wants a good horse property, right? Anyhow, keeps me busy, keeps me hopping right now, cleaning up their old homestead. That's part of the nature of it, though, right? It's harder work once you decide to be a homesteader. Even down to that moment when you decide to retire from being a homesteader, which is what my in-laws are doing at this point. Anyhow, I was a little distracted here, just kind of rambling. I've got goats climbing up walls like those goats you see in Italy, by the way. I mean, straight up, these guys are climbers, man. Our goats are bad to the bone. We have some landrace mixed in with 2 different versions of landrace breeds mixed in with high-quality farm breeds. And anyhow, I just wanted to share a quick thought. You know, in the defending our divinely inspired Constitution, President Oaks talks about, okay, I speak from this many years' experience clerking under Earl Warren, Supreme Court Chief Justice, and from this many years as a university law professor, plus the private law practice, plus the president of BYU, plus then a justice on the Utah Supreme Court. We all know he was getting looked at to be a United States Supreme Court justice. He was being taken very seriously. Anyhow, and he says, most importantly, I speak from 37 years as an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ, responsible to study the Constitution and understand its importance in God's restored gospel for these last days, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. So it always struck me as though basically the way I heard it is he's saying his most important years of studying the Constitution have been those 37 years. It could be that he's saying that they're the most relevant to the General Conference application, but that's not what I got from it. What I got from it is that, you know how President Benson says in his talk, Jesus Christ, Gifts and Expectations, that we should understand the Constitution through the words of the prophets and through the words of the founders and through the Constitution itself, right? Which is why my icon is what it is. He doesn't agree at all that the Supreme Court has the right to redefine what the Constitution is at all. And I've recently pointed out a talk where President Oaks says that too. But when you're watching, okay, so there's this old interview you can look up on from KSL from back when he was, after he finished out his month as a Supreme Court Justice and then was getting ready to go join the 12 Apostles. He's taking his books, he's emptying out his library. He's got 3 different boxes. The boxes he's taking home for his personal library, the boxes he's leaving with BYU, donating to them, and then the boxes he's taking to his apostleship office. And when you listen to the books that he's naming that he's leaving for BYU, these are books that are commentaries, I guarantee you, by worldly law experts. And I can't absolutely guarantee it, but it felt like that's what it was. I think the big point is, once he left those books behind and had those stop being a part of his library, let's connect that now to what he said in defending our divinely inspired Constitution. His most important years for understanding the Constitution were those years serving as apostle of Lord Jesus Christ. He didn't say that he was on special assignment to understand the Constitution and its application. That might be the case, but it sounded to me more like he's saying responsible to study the Constitution, right? Which makes sense when we say, we've had so many prophets say, next to being one and worshiping God, there's nothing upon which to measure the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints should be more united than upholding and defending the Constitution of the United States. Or when we say it's the basic fundamental law of Zion, or that Brigham Young wanted not only the gospel preached, but also the freedoms of the Constitution preached around the world. So it sounds to me, L. Tom Perry wasn't a lawyer, I don't think, but he says, how can you defend that which you have never carefully studied, if you have not drunken deeply from the wells of its wisdom, right? So that's a non-lawyer, I think. I'm pretty darn sure. But that's the point. Is, to me, the point is that okay. Got a dog misbehaving over here. This is why I stand out here and shoot these videos. I'm always supervising. This guard's more of a perimeter girl, but she's kind of bugged at some of the training I've got going on for more of the in-pen dogs. So anyhow, to me, what I get out of that is your most important understanding of the Constitution. And I'm biased, but I started off reading a bunch of Ezra Taft Benson, H. Rowland Anderson, Dallin H. Oaks, The Lord's Way, for example. Substantial commentary on what's the proper role of government versus churches and stuff like that, right? That was where I got my start, honestly, you know, with a little of the Federalist Papers and listening to books on the lives of the founders and stuff, which, by the way, I don't consider that stuff near as important, Federalist Papers or the books on the lives of the founders, as I do read the actual Constitution and the words of the prophets. And wherever there's commentary on this article or that section of the Constitution, look up what Madison or Jefferson said. Those are going to be your most useful points, as opposed to every last Federalist paper. To me, President Oaks has become one of the most important voices in understanding the Constitution now, because he's a prophet. President Benson, one of the most important voices in understanding the Constitution. David O. McKay, one of the most important voices in understanding the Constitution. John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff. I hope that makes sense. So, anyhow, that's it. He got rid of all those books that seemed like they were just, you know, worldly commentaries, and handed those off to BYU Law School. And for 37 years afterwards, prior to making the talk, Defending Our Divinely Inspired Constitution, he felt like those were his most important years, is what I got out of that. So, all right, thanks for listening, guys. See ya.